Hey everyone, this is the Disjunct Diary, and this episode is for November 27th, 2019. So, there's been a lot more Thanksgiving prep that we've been doing this last week. We finally got a table inside the house. For a long time, we didn't have much of a table. We would just use the little ottoman thing that we had in front of our couch to eat dinners and things like that. But we finally got a real full wooden table with some chairs, and we bought it off of somebody on that Facebook marketplace thing for about $40, and they lived kind of out in the middle of nowhere, at least in comparison to Bismarck. So we drove a good 30 miles outside of town, and these people were living on a farm type environment, and right when we pulled in, they had a gutted deer or elk or whatever, like hung up from a tree. Lauren ended up taking some photos of it, so I'm gonna try to see if I can get those from her, and I'll see if I can post them tomorrow or something. But that was kind of trippy in a cool way. It reminded me a little bit of how some people get their food over in Mexico as well. Over there's a lot of farm stuff too. No, obviously not in the big cities or anything like that, but in the smaller places. And I actually have this one memory when I was, I think I was in 7th grade, maybe 12 years old or so, 13 maybe at the most. And I went to go visit my grandparents in Mexico, which is something that my family has been doing, I'd say, every few years, usually 2-3 years. And at that particular time, they were going to have a baptism for my uncle's daughter, so my cousin. And for her baptism afterwards, the reception was going to be like this party thing that they were doing at my grandma's house, because she has a kind of a big plot of land over there. And I was telling Lauren, I think that house that she has over there has kind of influenced me to want to kind of do that type of living style as well. She has this really tall, it's got to be either 10 feet or maybe even taller, like iron gate in front of the house that just totally cuts it off from like the rest of the street. Now, I mean, they don't lock it, or they don't lock it until it's nighttime. But still, like, it's pretty cool to be able to have just that big old barrier type thing. Just kind of, like, cut yourself off, completely, even if you want to. They cut it, they lock the whole thing completely whenever everybody's out of the house, but usually there's always somebody there, because so my aunts live with her. Anyway, part of the prep for this baptism party, after party, I don't know if there's any pre-gaming and shit for a fucking baptism, but there definitely is a party afterwards. And they took a pig over to my grandma's house. These two random dudes, I guess, that they hired from a farm to come over and provide the meat for the party. And they brought a pig over, right over to the front of the door, the main door of the house. And all my little cousins and nieces and nephews or whatever, they're just all inside there. Like, right almost as you walk in, there's like a tiny little area where they have, the couches, like some couches right there. And over to the right is the kitchen and dining room. No wall separation. As you walk a little bit further in to the left, there's my grandma's bedroom and the living room, separated by a door. But everybody was in the living room, like right next to the door almost. And I was outside. I was sitting on some swing set that they had there, because I was curious as to what they were going to do, because they're bringing this live pig over here to the house. And I thought they were going to take it over to the back of the house or something like that, far away from the kids, and take care of the pig as quickly as they could over there. But they just tied it to a pole right in the front, and one of the guys just kind of like grabs the pig in like this kind of stranglehold kind of move, kind of like riding on top of it like a horse, while like grabbing at its neck to kind of hold it still. And the second guy just had a knife, and he just swiftly just like hit right under the rib. And the pig just kind of like stopped moving and struggling and just kind of got stunned. He removes the knife, and just blood just comes gushing out like some kind of like water park ride or something. Just splatters all over the ground, and then it immediately just starts screaming at the top of its like squeal kind of voice thing that it does. And right when that starts, I could hear all the kids inside screaming. I don't think they saw it happen, but just hearing how loud that pig was, they could have heard it from any part of the house, whether they were there or in the upstairs or all the way to the back of the house. It doesn't matter. I think people within the whole block could hear this thing scream. And they just let it bleed out, basically. I think they might have punctured him a couple more times, but it's pretty brutal way of letting a pig go like that. I didn't know that, they did it a second time, but I think last time we went, it was either last time or the time before that, my little brother had his baptism out in Mexico. But this time when we got, basically bought a whole pig for the food over there, they didn't take the pig over to my grandma's house. They did it outside, and maybe I think it was their own place where they did it. But I just thought that was really crazy. I mean, I was taken aback just looking at it, just, wow. And it stuck with me, for all these years later. And sometimes I talk to people about it a little bit, but it does make people cringe. It made me cringe, definitely looking at it. I didn't know it was going to happen exactly, so I kind of got stuck outside and just had to watch the whole thing go down because I was on the other side of the pig, and the pig was right in between me and the door. And they had it to where it was roped off, but still in the range of being able to go up to the door. So if I walked past, I didn't want it to charge at me because it was frightened and hurt at that point. So, yeah. So that was sharing just a little bit of my childhood experience. Trauma, maybe? I don't know. I haven't looked that deep into it yet. Anyway, let's see. That was quite a tangent I just went on. Oh yeah, when we came back though, we set the table up and it fits pretty good inside of the living room. The day after, we went out and did some grocery shopping, got some stuff for the Thanksgiving shit, and we ended up getting a board game, Monopoly, and that night we started playing, some of that Monopoly, and it was the first time I had ever finished a whole game of Monopoly. Not to brag too hard, but I did end up winning. I ended up winning a game of almost complete chance. So, don't I feel skilled? And we spent a good 2, maybe almost 3 hours playing the game. And it felt great, I wasn't checking the phone really. Maybe a little bit later on I started checking just to see what the time was, because I thought we had been going on for 5 hours or something. But time was just kind of, it was going at an okay pace, and I was having fun, and I think Lauren was too. And it just made me think about that social media shit. I kind of been keeping off of it. I'll look at it maybe a couple times every day now, and then I'll just put it aside. And I've been focusing on other stuff and not being on there all the time, and it feels good. It just, it feels good that it's not really owning me the way that it used to where I couldn't fucking keep my hand off, of the phone to look, like, through Instagram, and then even further back, Facebook and shit. It feels much more liberating not to have to worry about that as much. And, working on the music stuff, I keep hearing YouTube videos telling you how to market music and all this stuff. Like, you have to post every day. You have to, saturate, like, people with you so they don't forget about you. People are forgetful. They'll forget that you even exist if you don't post, like, every, like, 5 times every single day and all this shit. But, like, what kind of lives do they think that people are leading? I work on the music stuff, for sure. But if I were to post all of my music shit like that, I would have nothing to unveil when it's time for me to do it. And the second thing too is, I'm trying to live without having that to tie me down. I don't want to have to stop what I'm doing all the time just to take a photo of it and, brag about what I'm doing or something like that. I'd rather cherish that experience and have the memory. I have to stop to drink a little bit. My fucking throat got hurt just before I started doing this. I just got back home from work not too long ago, and I decided to make myself a sandwich, a almond butter and honey sandwich, and that shit is about as dry as a Popeye's biscuit, and I might have taken too big of a bite at one point, and I tried swallowing it and it wouldn't go down right away, and the damn thing was like sandpaper to my throat. Always something going on with my throat whenever it's time to do one of these fucking things. Gonna carry on nonetheless. I'm already doing it anyway, right? But, just, the frustrations of doing the Instagram thing. If you're doing it constantly like that, it never feels like you're growing. I get more growth, going out and playing shows on tour and things like that, as opposed to just posting every day and sitting around. Like when I'm on tour, I hardly even post as often as I would not touring, and I still get way more influx of followers that way than, actually being out there in the real world instead of just posting fucking selfies and shit. There's nothing wrong with that, really, but it's just not, that's just not what I'm trying to bring the focus to. I'm trying to, bring more focus to the real shit, because that's like, if somebody just keeps on posting nothing but fucking selfies all the time, like, it's not gonna be, the music stuff isn't gonna be the thing that people are gonna start focusing on. That'll just be the background shit that you'll post, once every couple months or something like that, while every single day you're posting like fucking 92 selfies. I don't know, it's been frustrating over the years when it comes to that. And I don't feel like playing by those rules anymore. I just want to do me, and I just want to live the best that I can. I wish I had somebody else to do this with, or people to kind of talk to or interview while doing this, because just saying me all the time, it's starting to feel really, like those people that just can't fucking stop, like, patting themselves on the back and shit. Don't worry, I'll beat myself up at some point during this. I know I will. In the meantime, I might as well just move on to some questions that people were asking me from the last one that I did. Somebody asked if I had seen Scott play with Sunn this last time during that Power of the Riff Fest in, forget the day exactly, November 11th, 18th, something like that, of 2018. And yeah, I was I wasn't front row or anything like that, but I was pretty close. I was over on Scott's side. He was on stage left, which is when you're looking, at the band, he's to the right. I was maybe 10, 15 feet away from him. I recorded some of it, maybe about a good minute or so of it, and I took some photos and stuff. I ended up posting I don't know if I posted the video of it, but I posted some of the photos that I had taken. Maybe after this, maybe in a couple days after I post this podcast thing, I'll post like that little short video of him performing on stage during that time. It was pretty cool. I had known it was going to happen, well ahead of time. They had asked him, some time in advance, and he agreed to it well in advance as well, so I knew it was going to happen. But it was still crazy, seeing it. Like, it was almost like you have to kind of pinch yourself kind of moment, just because last time he did it was 2006, something like that, 2005. I don't know the dates. I wasn't anywhere near old enough to go to shows at that time, so I never got the chance to see him during that tour that he did with Sunn in the U.S. And he went to Europe with them as well, but I never got to see that. I didn't think I was ever going to see that. And for him to do it just once like that was pretty cool. I don't know if it'll ever become a thing that he'll do again with them on a tour, but if so, I'd tell him to go for it. If he's into it, fuck it, why not? So anyway, maybe I'll post that video of that happening within a day or two after this. But, if you guys want to, let me know if you guys want to. Come on, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let's see. What else did people ask? Somebody asked if I have done any projects outside of music, which I'm assuming that means, like, have I ever been on, like, in a movie or a show or something, a YouTube video? I don't know. No, I haven't. I'm not really an actor much. I did drama class in fucking high school, and it was fun, but, acting's not something I've really ever tried pursuing. I don't think I have the demeanor or the voice to be able to do that, I don't think. Like, that type of stuff fascinates me, and I think it's pretty cool. I just don't know if I'd be the right fit for that kind of thing. Maybe in, like, a non-speaking role or some shit. If I was like the monster in a Halloween, like, horror movie or something like that. I think something like that would be kind of cool, but I don't foresee myself doing much of that. I mostly stick to just trying to do music stuff. That being said, I haven't been in like 20 bands either. Over the years, I talked about this on the last podcast, some of the bands that I was in before that. It was all basically different iterations of the same band that me and a couple of my friends had started right after middle school. So, and then I ended up joining Xaster like right after I got out of high school. So it hasn't been like that much. I haven't been in that many different bands. I've played with a lot of people, but I've never been in a bunch of different bands. So, I don't know. I guess I still got a pretty long way to go, I'd say. Let's see. These are like machine gun fucking responses, huh? At least compared to the way I've done it before. Let's see. Somebody asked how my songwriting has evolved from the old bands until now, where I'm at currently. Well, the biggest thing is pretty much just, it went from being metal on electric guitars to being, just acoustic mostly. I have an electric guitar here, which needs a lot of work still. I need to upgrade a lot of stuff on it, and I'm wondering whether it's even worth doing that. Maybe once I get to California, I'll trade it in and get something better with whatever I get from that, and then some extra money on top of that. I don't know, I'll see. I have better guitars back over there anyways. I have this V guitar. It's like a Dean VX or something like that. It's a V guitar, and it's like a sunburst type of thing, type of paint job. And that's my favorite guitar. I love V guitars and I love SG shaped guitars. Those are my two favorite kind of like body shapes. And thinking about it, I don't know if I'll sell or give or trade away this SG that I have here. It's pretty cool. I like the color. I don't know. Maybe I can upgrade it and not just get a different guitar over time or something. I might need to upgrade my acoustic at the moment. I have a Guild D240E, and it's a great guitar. I love it, and I love the way that it feels and sounds. The only problem is that this damn climate is so dry. I've had to get some different humidifiers because this thing just keeps on slowly getting little hairline cracks on the body, and I have to keep on re-gluing these little cracks that keep happening. And I'm really afraid that just a dry climate out here is gonna destroy it, over time more quickly than I thought it would happen. So I might have to just hold off on anything else until maybe that happens. I hope it doesn't. I really don't want to have to get a new guitar because I really like this one a lot. But we'll see. Got my fingers crossed and I'm knocking on wood. Not that guitar wood because it might crack if I do. But anyway, my songwriting. I remember the first song that I had ever written. It was right after I got out of middle school. It was the summer between 8th and 9th grade. And at that time, I was, I was already into metal and everything like that. I was having a really heavy Cannibal Corpse and Death and Slayer and Pantera kind of phase-ish around that time. Those were like the top 4 bands that I was listening to. And it is very noticeable in that first song. I don't have any recordings of it. I might have had some like phone recordings of demos or whatever of it like way back, but I've lost that shit since then. My friend and I, my friend Peter, who was in that band with me for quite a while, and we used to make like these demo CDs of riffs, just a bunch of different riffs, and we used to put them on CDs, like burnt CDs, like transfer them from our phones over to our computers, and then put them on blank CDs, and we used to just call them like, I remember, I don't know if I still have this CD somewhere, but it's this red CD that Peter gave me, and it was called Peter's Riffage number 1, and we just like number them. And during passing periods in high school, we used to just walk by each other and just be like, here you go, here's another one if you want to listen to it and pick some out that you like. And we used to collaborate with writing like that. And that's something that I miss, just having a little bit more of a collaborative writing type thing when it comes to the music. And because, there isn't a whole lot of that goes on with Disaster. It's mostly Scott's, vision and everything like that, and I respect that. I don't want to, impose my own riffs or anything like that, or, like force them into a song just because I want there to be something like that. It's his thing, ultimately, and, if he wants to play this and have it be like this all the way through, that's totally fine. And then, inversely, this other thing that I'm doing is just a solo thing. I don't have anybody to collaborate music with. The lyrics, I want to keep it just me talking about my own stuff. I want to write from my perspective more than other people's. I mean, I'll probably delve into that type of stuff at some point, but it's easier for me to talk about myself than to start pointing fingers at everybody. That's just a recipe for me pissing people off, and I'm not really good at it. Scott's really good at pointing those mirrors at people, but I think I'm better at pointing it at myself. Anyway, my guitar playing style, ever since I took up the finger picking, has gotten more intricate than it was when I played metal. I was never really much of a shredding kind of guy. Even now, I try not to delve too much into doing a lot of soloing. I don't have those fast kind of chops that it requires to do some of that stuff sometimes. So I prefer just sticking to like doing chords, and I rely heavily on doing chord changes that inspire me more. Then, kind of move me when I'm listening to them. And a way for me to kind of gauge that is I still record my riffs on my phone, and I'll like listen to them as I'm coming up with stuff, and I'll slowly just start changing it as I go along. So like I'll find a chord that sounds cool on its own, I'll record it just to remember what it sounds like in case I just drop my guitar at that point, and then I'll come back like days later or something like that. But then I'll just like, it's just very piecemeal, you just start putting chords together that you think sound kind of like unique in that way, and then you like figure out like what kind of rhythm you want for it, what kind of feel you want to get out of those chords, and then you just keep on adding stuff. Whether to make it more complicated, make it catchier, whatever. That's how I do it. And I think it's working okay. I get into some pretty long, I guess, or extensive ruts when it comes to the creativity part of it. That's why it takes me so goddamn long to do anything. But I'm still trying to do it as much as I can. I'll see. I have, about 7 or 8 songs recorded for my own thing. I believe it's about 7 or 8. I want to do more. I have some ideas that I'm probably going to start working on, initiate once I'm done recording this. And I have some other stuff that I kind of came up with that I haven't fleshed out all the way through on top of that. And I'm actually thinking about using one as sort of like a theme song, or maybe an outro for this podcast, because it's not upbeat, like happy sounding. It's pretty dark sounding, but it's like fast paced, and it's all on synth and bass only. And I don't know if it really fits in with what I'm doing or what I'm trying to create with this new Fontana album that I've been working on. So maybe at some point I'll play a little bit of it and see if I should keep it or not. You guys will let me know. Maybe by the next week that I make the next podcast, just let me know if it'll sound cool or if it sounds good once I put it at the beginning or at the end. Maybe both, just to kind of get like a little bit of a teaser if I should finish it and use it just for the podcast as an instrumental. Anyway, we'll see. Let's see. What else was written here? If there's any... Somebody asked if there was any films or TV shows that I'm into. And yeah, I'm not into a whole lot. This category kind of does fall into the same reasons why, even though I like video games a lot, I don't usually find myself playing them too often. It's mostly because of the time investment. Some movies are 2 hours long, 3 hours long, sometimes maybe even more. And it's a lot of time investment for me, and it's time that I fucking start feeling like I'm just sitting around or something like that if I'm not doing the music shit. I really hope maybe once I finish this album and then the Disaster album that we've been working on, I can kind of finally lay back for a little bit before going on tour for that album, for the band that is. But I just have too much stuff on my plate right now to be able to watch a whole bunch of them in a row or do a marathon of a show or something. But over the years, I've liked a few things. I'm really into horror movies. I'm not the most knowledgeable dude out there about them, but I like a lot of 80s and slasher type stuff in particular. Even though they're, total cheese fests and, they're kind of ridiculous, I really like the Friday the 13th movies. Those first 4 are my shit. And I have really good memories of, being a kid and watching them and eating like spaghetti and shit like that while watching them. That was always really fun. I also like some like mob movies and just crime type of movies like that, like Scarface, the Godfather movies, Goodfellas. Oh god, Goodfellas is like one of my favorite movies. That one's really great. And honestly, I don't find myself straying too far from those movie categories, because, I guess I like some comedies. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but, I love, funny stuff. I love watching stand-up comedy on Netflix and YouTube and all that. Comedians and stuff I have a lot of respect for, and I love the way that they communicate. And I feel like that in some way inspires the way that I kind of write in a more conversational kind of manner nowadays. You guys will see a little bit more of that once I finally put this fucking album out. But yeah, I love comedy, and I've loved comedy for many, many years. George Carlin and Bill Burr, Joe Rogan, Eddie Murphy. I really love those guys. Dave Chappelle, that's probably my favorite comic, as is the case for a lot of people as well. And for shows, I don't watch that many shows. I like South Park. I like The Office, Trailer Park Boys. Scott and I, when we used to, live together in the same place, we used to watch a lot of The Office, and we used to watch a lot of Trailer Park Boys as well. And, those were some good memories and stuff like that of, living there just laughing our asses off to some stupid shit that happens in the office. But, I will say, I don't know, a lot of people, apparently, I haven't seen too many people say they hate the later seasons after Michael Scott leaves, but I like it. I like Robert California quite a bit, because that dude's a fucking trip. And I don't know if Scott still has these little clips that he had recorded from his phone up on Instagram anymore, but sometimes he used to take little clips of the Robert California thing, because it's like really bizarre shit that he says, but a lot of times it's like really, it's like crazy, like deep or relevant somehow. Anyway, if you haven't seen those, I would kind of recommend those, because I really like him as a character. That dude's a fucking trip. Anyways, yeah, that's pretty much about it. Not a whole lot of stuff in that subject. But another question was whether I was into collecting any CDs or vinyls or cassettes or anything like that. And I like the way that cassettes look, but I've never collected them. I've never owned a tape player. I had a tape player when I was like 4. I referenced this, I think, either in my first or second episode of playing tapes when I was living in Mexico. But that was probably the last time I ever had a tape player. Other than that, it's been mostly CDs. I have a ton of CDs. I might have close to 200, 300 CDs maybe at this point. I like vinyl. I've had to sell my vinyl before, though, just from being so fucking broke all the time. I want to collect it. I just don't have a good turntable. I haven't had a good turntable. I want to get one, but the money investment in it's a little steep for me at the moment too. I'd rather be saving up to get things to make music with rather than to play someone else's music. Usually nowadays I'm listening to Spotify while still buying CDs every now and again. The last CD purchase that I had was the new Freddie Gibbs album, Bandana. I bought it off of their site, and I got it signed by him and by Madlib, which was pretty cool. I don't think I ever even posted a photo of that, but I have it. If anybody's interested, I could take a picture and post it or something, and you guys can see it's awesome. And I like that album a lot too, so that's why, I heard it, and, I'll buy it if I really like it, and I really like that one. And, I'm gonna take another drink. Sorry if this is kind of loud or something, but I have to. No, I'm just kidding. My throat feels like the fucking Sahara when I talk for this long. I'm not used to talking for so fucking long at a time. So, I also got asked how I got into metal and folk music. And it's kind of, they're two things that I got into kind of far apart from each other. I first got into metal, basically during that time that I had spoken about before when, I was playing those Tony Hawk games and I got into it because they had some metal on there. Not a whole lot, it was more punk than metal, but, it was around that time, like, I went from that to listening, buying some CDs and listening to Kiss and AC/DC. And then after that, I started going, let's see. Oh, you know what? I know. I remember now. When I went to Mexico to visit my family, this is one of those instances when I went over and, when I went over there, I guess it had been a few years since the time before. I think I was, you know what? I think it might have been that same time when I saw that pig get slaughtered. Yeah. My cousin, she had a boyfriend at that time that was into, the, like, rock and metal and stuff. And he had, like, over there, they don't have, I live in Guanajuato. And in that state, I live, like, my parents are from, and I actually did live also when I was living in Mexico there for a little bit, in a smaller town called Romita. And there, for a long time they didn't have any big stores. Just a bunch of, smaller shops that were locally owned. And there's still mostly that there. And most places that sell CDs there will sell bootlegs and shit. It's not really commonplace to get, like, the legit CDs over there. Even in the big towns. They cost way more. And people want to get the most bang for their buck that they can get out there. So, this guy, he had a burnt CD of a whole bunch of different mix of stuff. Anything ranging from AC/DC through to Metallica and Pantera and, Led Zeppelin and AC/DC. I already said that. And Sepultura, I think, even. And he put that on another blank CD for me. So it was like a copy of a copy. Probably of another copy. And that's what, introduced me to a little bit heavier stuff, like Metallica and all that. And then after I was into that, I got into Iron Maiden, and of course Black Sabbath as well. And, I didn't have the internet for the longest time, so that's when, this was, around the time when CD stores were starting to kind of go on their way out, but they were still around at malls and things. So I would still go over to the mall, and there was this one at Ontario Mills called Second Spin, and they had a huge selection of just CDs in general. It was like one of those big warehouse settings, and they had a pretty decent sized metal section. And I just remember I would scour through all that stuff and just, I would raise up some money by not eating lunch and just raising, a couple of dollars here and there that way. And I would just pick stuff out that looked cool. And that's how I got into Cannibal Corpse and all the, harder death metal type stuff. And I got into black metal because I asked my cousin Hector if there was anything heavier than like some of the death metal stuff that I was listening to. And he showed me Mayhem. He told me about them. And from there, I just started doing my own research after that. That was around, like late period of me being in middle school, I believe. And from there, I finally got internet access at my house. So then I just started researching all those black metal bands, and I got into all that other stuff. So that's pretty much how I got into metal. The folk thing, well, I'm not really a huge avid folk listener. I like some stuff, of course, but I can't list off like 20 folk bands and artists. I kind of like to scatter my listening through a whole bunch of different stuff and not focus too much on one genre that much anymore. Like nowadays, I find myself listening to a lot of different stuff. I've been listening to a lot of Prince lately. I love his music, and I love how varied it is, and that's where I'm drawing a lot of inspiration from. But the folk music thing, or just acoustic music and wanting to pick up an acoustic guitar in general, came from listening to Scott's music. I saw that Vice documentary, that stupid fucking thing about, him and Leviathan and Streborg, which I don't think any of them like that, the way that they were portrayed in that. And from what Scott tells me, they ended up cutting it in a certain way to make it look like, things were happening that weren't actually the case or reality of how it went down. Anyway, at the end of that, they had mentioned that, he was doing that Nocturnal Poisoning project. So I went, ahead on YouTube and looked it up, and that's when I found some of the cuts that he did on Other Worlds of the Mind, which was the first Nocturnal Poisoning album. And it was probably like that night or within a night or two of first hearing that stuff that I reached out to Scott and, offered to help him out with it. But yeah, that first album, A Misleading Reality, the second Nocturnal Poisoning album, those were huge milestones in my listening experience for music, to kind of put me on another level as far as, that listening to those and really liking them and them meaning as much to me as they do, it opened up, like, it made me feel like I could listen to more than just this metal stuff. It made me want to listen to all types of music, and since then I have. And I've never really looked back and wanted to stay in just one place. So, that those two albums are everything to me, and I still really love that Misleading Reality album to this day. Like, out of all the Nocturnal Poisoning stuff, that one I feel is the best one. That's like the most solid one. Just the songs on there are great. There's still some of them that we even play to this day still. And some of them that I still want to keep playing to this day. But, I don't think I have too much else to talk about. And, it's like if... I don't know how in-depth I go about some of this stuff. I feel like most of these episodes so far have been mostly introductory things about how I started liking some of these things, and I feel like I don't ever get that deep into them. If you guys want me to go deeper about anything that I'm talking about, I can. Just let me know. Communication is the most important thing with this, because, without you guys letting me know what to talk about, I don't really know what would be interesting, to touch upon. So, any, pointers or, just telling me what you guys are interested in hearing would be the coolest thing. Most of the times I haven't seen anything that I'm like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. So yeah. If you guys have any suggestions, I think I'm gonna probably cut it at about here. This is usually the running time that I go for anyway, so yeah, thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys have an awesome Thanksgiving, and I'm gonna be, thankful about everybody that I have in my life, all the people that have been supporting me, people that have been listening to this and to my music and to the band's music for all these years. I really appreciate you guys, and I'm very thankful. I'm thankful for Lauren and for my parents and my siblings, and I'm thankful for all the opportunities that I've been given in my life. And I hope you guys have an awesome time. Thank you.